Hi Crafty friend, it's me, Justine Dvorak. I hope you're doing so well. Happy July. If you haven't watched any videos here in July, welcome. Today I am featuring the Stitched Club. It is so pretty. Look at that. It's called All Wrapped Up. And it features this beautiful bow, but there's also a little line die. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's lines with circles. So I'm going to show that at the end, but I'm going to first demonstrate how to stitch the bow. So if you are not familiar with any of my stitching tips or tricks, be sure to check out the playlist that I have. That is the Stitching 101 playlist. I have two very informative videos on there that will help you out a ton for all of my stitching tips and tricks. But in this video, I will show you how to stitch with this beautiful bow die. It is so pretty. My biggest tip that is kind of like my new thing for stitching is just use tape. I mean, it's just, I don't know. There's these embroidery purists out there that will say do not use tape or glue or knots. If that's you, I am so proud of you. Go for it. Good for you. I'm not that way. Just use tape, because to me it's faster and then I can make more cards if I'm being efficient in the craft room. So I just tape down my tail and we'll get started. I'll come up the top and then go down on the next hole that's right lining up with that one, and then just pull it. Now you don't want to pull it too tight, you're going to get a bent bow, but you also don't want it too loose because then it will be a saggy bow. So you just want it to be kind of taut, and then go up the next hole right next to that, and then down the top. This is just a straight stitch. You're just stitching across. It uses up a lot of thread, so just kind of keep that in mind when you're getting prepared to thread your needle. And I'll just go back and forth for all 5 holes on the sides. Well, technically it's 10 holes, but you know, if you notice it getting a little tight or a little loose, you can always kind of adjust those stitches as you go. But it is a really fun bow die. You can make Christmas cards with it. You could make birthday cards. I think it'd be fun to make some kind of fun stitch bows to have for adorning presents or gift bags. I always find that fun. Anything that I can do in the paper crafting, in my crafting area, to add to gift wrapping is kind of fun recently, because I do not enjoy gift wrapping that much. Just being real, I rather just give someone a beautiful card with a gift card, because I love the card making. I don't want to wrap a present with some dorky bag from my gift closet. I'd rather just make a card. Just being really honest with you here. So there's that. Anyway, let's just get into this next little piece. Now I'm going to do 2 of these, just one on camera, but this is going to create the illusion that there is stitching going all the way around the card. So this is just like the long piece. You just go back and forth on here. I think it goes flying in a second, so prepare yourself for that. Oop. I don't know what it was up with me. Perhaps I had too much caffeine before I filmed this, but I feel like I kind of went crazy when I was stitching this. And I think I stitched it in record time, because it was not very long to stitch this one at all. And yes, I'm getting a little crazy with my tape here again, just cutting up a little yellow best ever craft tape and popping it on. And it is easy peasy to cut that tape with the Spellbinders detail scissors. They are non-stick. Oh, I'll say it again for the people in the back. They're non-stick. It is so nice to cut tape with that. I put it on the back of my hand so you could see it up close. I don't know. To me, that reminds me of like old YouTube days where there was makeup tutorials, but let's move on. The bottom part of the bow is, I guess, the trickiest part about this stitch die. It's not too bad, but I will keep us nice and close and zoomed in so you can see it. But there are 5 holes on the top and there are 11 holes on the bottom. So this first stitch, I start at the top and go down. I'm going to go over instead of going back up, and I'm going to go back into that same first hole. So 2 threads are going to go into every top hole except the center one. So here I go down, and then I'm going to go over. So sorry. Come on, thread, there we go. Over to the next one, and then I'm going to go back into the hole number 2. And then I'm going to go over to hole number 1 and go directly straight down. So that middle one's the only one that's having 1 hole. And then into 4. And then go back down and go back into hole 4. Over to hole 5. And then down. Over. Adjust my hand a little bit, and then back into hole 5, like so. And then I'll just add a little bit of tape. That wasn't too bad, was it? If you ever have any stitching questions or have troubles with any of these dies and you're watching my video going, how in the world did you just do that? Please, please, please comment, because I would love to help you. That's the whole point of making these videos, is to help you, for anyone who needs stitching help and to provide inspiration. Because when I first started stitching, there wasn't videos for all the dies, and I desperately needed them in the beginning. And you know, once you kind of stitch a little bit, you kind of get the gist of what's happening. But let me know if you need any help. Now the top part of the bow is just going back and forth, so it's a straight stitch. So there's no double holes at all, just going back and forth. Stitching to me is such a fun activity. I have definitely taken a little bit of a step back from stitching over the last year because of our house construction projects and honestly just the BetterPress in general. I've loved the BetterPress, so I've been pressing and watercoloring and painting a lot. So I love that the stitching club exists, because then I know that I still have a little bit of stitching in my life, which I just adore. So I'm thankful that that is still around, but there isn't a ton of stitching stuff coming out all the time like there used to be from Spellbinders. So I'm sorry for not having a ton of stitching videos on my channel, but I do what I can. All right, now for the last piece, it is the center, and that is just a simple circle stitch going around. So all those holes on the outside go into the center hole. So I'll just quickly grab a little piece of thread and do that. So anytime I have thread like this, I am using 3 strands of the 6. So you'll kind of find that out in my stitching 101 playlist if you watch that. But I find that 3 threads is plenty of thread for me. I think that 2 on my projects I think looks a little bit bare, but 3 works for me. Now last month it was the stitching ice cream cone, which I adored, but I did have an interesting comment on that video that said, you know, cute card, but like, why stitch an ice cream cone, or something to those lines. And I did answer that person, but I just want to address it here. Like, why a stitch bell? Why a stitch ice cream cone, or a stitch flower, or a stitch star? Whatever it might be. The reason is, here I go with my circle stitch, by the way. The reason is texture. Stitching adds such a fun texture to cards that's different than BetterPress, it's different than Glimmer, it's different than Copic coloring, it's different than die cutting without adding the thread, because that thread adds a fun texture. And every time I've given someone a stitch card, the first thing they do is they touch the thread. Just like if you give someone a Glimmer card, they're going to move it around so that light catches it, because when you see interesting things like that on cards, people cannot help it. It's almost like an instinct just to like, oh, what is that? And people are naturally curious about what's happening there, and stitching adds that texture. So that is why I enjoy stitching on cards. It adds that fun texture, but it's also really relaxing to stitch. And I'm gonna finish this one off by back stitching because I kind of just did that naturally, I guess. All right, and a little bit of YouTube magic, if you will. I will have stitched the other half of the bow. Ta-da! Ta-da! Now you can see some other bow cards that I have on the end there. Like I said, I will show you some more as we go along, but I did want to also mention the 3D embossing folder club this month is stunning. That's what I used on the background of this bow card. It's called Pine Cones and Berries. Anytime I use embossing or 3D embossing folders and I'm putting it onto a card front, I do like to use liquid glue because some of the areas are so raised. And for whatever reason, my red scrap there was a little bit short of an A2, so I'm going to go ahead and grab my trimmer and just snip off the edge. No biggie at all, right? Okay, for adding on my stitched bow to the card, I'm going to start with the long piece, and I'll just snip any extra threads just so they don't sneak out because we don't need them popping out. This is so professional, so we don't need any of that. And since I cut my card base down just a tiny bit to make that fit, it is going to go over the edge just a little, but it's okay. I use my grid lines there to find the center, to put my bow there. Again, it's not Hallmark here, people. It's a handmade card. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it is helpful for placement for the big piece to be in the center. So those little edge pieces that I will add behind the top part of the bow will fit. So do not mind my squeaky chair. I don't know if the microphone is picking that up, but I will try to sit still so you do not hear it. Okay, I added those 2 die cut pieces on the top so it looks like the bow has that like little 3D element to it, but these little side pieces really help make it look like it is wrapped all the way around. Now it kept wanting to stick to my finger, so that was the little excitement there, but I'm also going to use the grid lines to add this piece. So do not be afraid to use the little tools that you've got hidden in plain sight in your craft room as well. Should have used the reverse tweezers on this because it just wanted to stick to my hands. They were sitting right there. Anyway, we'll have the bow and just use liquid glue again. I like to add it kind of all over the die cut areas, but then also on the stitching areas. It's going onto a 3D embossed background, so the texture from that alone and the thread there's a lot of texture happening there. So you can also just put something heavy on top of it, like a acrylic stamp block, or sometimes I like to put my pink little glue station on top of my project just to hold it down. Once it's dry, it's all in place and happy as can be. I'm going to sneak these little bow ends under the big bow area and then finish this card off with the center. Now on these stitch cards, I did not add a lot of sentiments or anything because I think the card is so pretty without a sentiment, but on the example card from Spellbinders, they put the sentiment going across the bottom on the front, and that looked really pretty as well. So you do you, and weirdly enough, I did not add any embellishments to this either because, again, I just thought it had a lot going on texture-wise, and I know that if I got this card, the first thing I would do is touch the 3D embossed paper and the stitching for sure. That's exactly what I would do. So there's a close-up look. That cardstock is a brushed red cardstock, so it is kind of pretty with the light there. And then there's that one with red glitter paper and some paper from Paper Rose. And then the green mirror cardstock was on that green card with some of the white brushed cardstock. And then the silver brush cardstock is what I used on the background of this birthday card. We really just took a hard left turn here. Now we're going from Christmas to birthday. This is what I was talking about at the beginning, the line of circles. I did a little ombre moment with these circle dies and just enjoyed using up some of my little blue scraps that I had in my scrap bin and matched the thread to my paper, and then finished off every single circle with a gem, which I thought was really fun. And then I had the embossed sentiment, not embossed, BetterPress sentiment, happy birthday. And I think I used, I did use the die to cut that out as well. And then with a little bit of foam, it just popped it up. Oh, that embossing folder. I should tell you the number. That was the embossing folder of the month from February of 2023. It is one of my favorites. I keep reaching for it, and it's a fun one to color as well because it has all those little pieces. So let me know, was one of your favorites one of the Christmas ones, or was it the birthday? I think because I'm a blue person, I love the happy birthday card. I think that one is my favorite. Plus it has all these rhinestones, but I love the versatility of the bow die itself. So let me know what your favorite was in the comments, and be sure to check out that stitching playlist if you need any help or have any questions. Let me know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe for more videos from me in your future. We'll see you next time, and I really appreciate you watching. Bye, crafty friend.